Hello and welcome to round one of the F1 Esports New Balance Pro Series 2019. Coming at you from the GFinity Arena in London. Now, over the next 4 months, sim drivers representing the 10 F1 teams will fight it out to be crowned Pro Series champion. Time to welcome our drivers to the arena.
Here we go then. Formula One Esports Pro Series is underway. And we're racing in Germany, Silverstone, victory in Singapore. It's the reigning champion, BRENDON. Look how much that means to him. And wheel to wheel, what a place to make the move.
Hold tight indeed. Now, there is so much to look forward to this season. As to help me through it, I'm joined by Matt Gallagher and Ferrari Academy driver Callum Eilert, and we'll be hearing from both of them very shortly in just a moment. Let's just show you how this whole thing works. For the 2019 edition of the F1 New Balance Pro Series, drivers representing 10 F1 teams will compete in a 12-round championship spread across 4 events taking place here at the GFinity Esports Arena in London. Every round takes place on a different F1 track and consists of practice, qualifying and a race. Each team selects 2 drivers from their 3-man roster to compete in each round. Races are a quarter of the distance of a traditional F1 race, and unless it rains, drivers are required to make at least 1 pit stop, so they race on 2 different tyre compounds. To ensure the competitors are judged purely on racing ability, all the cars in the Pro Series are set to equal performance. There is no mechanical advantage for any one team. The point system is the same as in the traditional F1, with the top 10 finishers from each race gaining points for themselves and their team. In addition, this season, the driver with the fastest race lap will be awarded a further 1 point. At the end of the season, the driver with the most fastest laps will be awarded the DHL Fastest Lap Award. The driver with the most points will be crowned F1 New Balance Pro Series Driver Champion, and the team with the most points will receive the Pro Series team title along with a share of $500,000 prize money. So there you have it then, 12 races to decide the next champion of the New Balance Pro Series. And someone who knows a thing or two about sim racing, and also some people have said he's a fanboy, but he's not. He's just very passionate. So one and only Mr. Matt Gallagher, are you excited about this season?
Hello, Tom. Yeah, I can't believe it's here already. You know, race 1, I'm so excited to see. Will BRENDON LEIGH finally get toppled? There's a lot of teams taking it very, very seriously. We've got a new one as well, I'm sure we'll talk about soon. But I'm so excited. I cannot wait to see these guys go wheel to wheel. Yeah, indeed. And when you say take it seriously, just the competition, the talent has been there. BRENDON has just been phenomenal for the last 2 years. Now, a talented man next to you is one of Mr. Callum Eilert. Callum, obviously, to put you in perspective, Ferrari Academy driver, loving the jacket. Me and Matt were both complimenting you on that very nice jacket. But you're no stranger to sim driving.
Yeah, obviously, as a driver, you use sim racing as a tool, or sim driving. I was probably in a sim before I was in a car, so we were using that to train you as a driver, and then as a team, you use it to develop your cars and that, so it's a fundamental part of a racing driver's career. And
indeed, you obviously hoping someday, very close, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for you, in F1 someday, driving. To put it in perspective for these guys, they're going to be very nervous. They need to stay focused tonight with all these cameras and everything around them.
Obviously, when you're driving, it's a very different experience to outside. Obviously, a lot of nerves going into an event, but I think once they're there, they'll be focused, and you know, as long as the motivation's high and the consistency is there, I think they'll all be good. But obviously, it's very stressful, but I think they'll do a good job. Yeah, indeed. And obviously, in that draft day, Matt, nerves were jangling. People got selected. They might be having their first debut tonight. What do you expect from those new drivers tonight?
Well, I mean, you mentioned the cameras, you mentioned the lights. It is daunting. And, you know, they're not in their bedrooms anymore. They're not in wherever they're most comfortable. They're going to have cameras in their faces. They're going to be having thousands and thousands of people watching them. Will they be able to perform? We'll have to find out. Yeah, I thought you were just going to pause there, but you didn't, and I respect that. Yes, thank you very much for watching us today. One of the big changes for 2019 is that we now have a full roster of F1 teams involved, as one of the biggest names in motorsport take their bow in the F1 Pro Series, and they've chosen some local talent to lead their charge.
challenge here because it was my first year in the F1 Esports series, so I wasn't expecting too much.
The number 1 pick goes to number 18, David Tonizza!
It's an amazing feeling. I mean, last year I was there, nobody wanted me, and this year Ferrari picked me, so I don't even know what to say. It was just an amazing feeling for Ferrari Driver Academy. It's the most iconic team. It's a huge pleasure for me to represent them. It's fantastic. I'm training at the facility on Maranello of Ferrari Driver Academy, so I'm training really hard every single day. I've always have the pressure, not because this is just the first year. If I will continue this journey, I will always have pressure. Everyone will be at an insane level, so I think I'm ready, but we will see in the first race. I will try everything to finish every single race in the point zone. I will try to win at least a race.
So there you go, David Tonizza talking there, Callum, as a Ferrari Academy driver, talking about the talent is kind of on the same level. So you're really looking for small differences that set you apart. Obviously, I've been making sure I know your journey. In terms of consistency, hard work, focus, are those the key areas that can help the drivers tonight?
Yeah, especially when the talent's all very level. You've got to be at the right place at the right time and put the effort in 100%. So for these guys, you know, they've got to be finding the last little bits everywhere, and it's down to hard work and dedication. Yeah,
and we've seen from Brendon in the past 2 years the sacrifice that goes into winning. Is it really all about that sacrifice and how much you really want it?
It makes a difference for sure. Every little thing makes a difference.
Okay, and Matt, obviously the sacrifice is there. Keep coming back every year. Would you say it's now at the stage where this is the biggest year?
Absolutely. We've got Ferrari involved, which obviously one of the big dogs in Formula One. Every team, as you know, I mentioned earlier, taking it extremely seriously. You know, these guys have put a huge amount of resource behind their drivers to not only, you know, send them off and play the F1 game, you know, mental, fitness, we've seen with Brendon, you know, he's a new man. You know, there's so much being put into this that every team needs to get those results.
Do you feel like David Tonizza will have more pressure on himself because he was the first draft pick 2019?
Well, especially with the fact that he is with the Ferrari Driver Academy. I wouldn't want to be in his shoes.
Okay, fair enough. Well, listen, David takes his place among 30 championship hopefuls for this season. Let's see who else is making up the rosters for 2019. So here we go then, Daniel BEREZNAY moving over to Alfa Romeo, racing F1 Esports, and in the Ferrari camp, all Italians. So the communication on the radios, we absolutely tip-top there. And as Matt called them, the big dogs. Haas there with Floris Vijs making his debut, the Dutch team. McLaren's shadow, Alec van der Waal, moving across from Alfa Romeo to join up with Bono, Huis and the rest. Brendan Leigh with the Petronas, Mercedes guys at AMG. And then for Red Bull, there is that man, FREDERIK Rasmussen. What a race it was in Baku. That will be on the way tonight, so don't go anywhere. And for Renault Vitality, Cedric Thomas already looks like he's celebrating there, which I respect massively. Sports Pesta Racing, we have got Marcel, KIEFER and the Lucas Blakely, who had quite the celebration in the draft. And there, Ciambo Bassi, Patrick Holtzman and Bianco Lilla joining the Toro Rosso team. And for Williams, Alvaro Carleton had such a good end to last season. And Tino, the first pick in the 2018 draft, and also Isaac Price there. Matt Gallagher, looking at those lineups that we went through very quickly, who's caught your eye?
Well, I actually saw at Silverstone Jarno Opmeer racing against quite a few of the other guys in sort of fun exhibition races, but he took it very seriously and he was very quick. So for me, he was kind of one of my sort of wild cards going into this. Whether or not I've now cursed him, we'll find out very soon. But he was one of those that definitely stood out as a new kid on the block. Yeah. Okay, and in terms of the teams, the strongest team that you look at with their roster? Alfa Romeo. I think they've got Danny BEREZNAY, they've got the Saltunk of Sally. Unfortunately, his brother didn't make it this time, but those two are very, very quick, and they'll be an absolute rocket off the line.
All right, fair enough then. Right, let's see which 20 drivers made it to the start line for race 1. Qualifying took place yesterday. Some interesting names at the top of the grid. Any final thoughts as we head into this one, Matt? You're looking at there, the FREDERIK Rasmussen in first pole position. Well, there, he's got it all to do.
Yeah, Rasmussen, obviously, he showed last year he was a force to be reckoned with. He gave up his spot for the last few races, which was a bit of a shame last year, but he's on pole, which is awesome. Got Enzo Benito, another fantastic sim racer for McLaren Shadow.
What's happened to Brendan there? I don't put all the storyline on him, but 10th place, that's not what we expect from him.
I mean, 3 tenths off pole and he's starting 10th. I think that kind of just shows the prowess and the absolute skill that we've got here this year for the F1 Esports Series. You've got some of these names fighting right at the front last year. You've got Chembol Bassi down in 16th.
Yeah, indeed, and some experienced head there, so hopefully they'll be able to work their way up. If you are starting off down in 18th, 19th, 20th, what would be the tactics, Callum?
The motivation to come through. I think I always enjoy starting at the back sometimes. When you had a bad quality, it's good to come through and make a good effort, but it's clearly very close, so they're all going to have to work hard to make it up.
Okay, all right, well listen guys, so I was kind of all set this year at this point to introduce our regular casters for the first time today, but although I see Mr. Jack Nichols up there, I've got to ask, what have you done with Davide?
Yeah, you're right. He's not here. I think he got a little bit too excited celebrating Ferrari's win at Monza, potentially. But I've got a very capable replacement in Alex Brundle. Not replacement, substitute in Alex Brundle. That sounds worse. Alex, looking forward to this racing today, and what can we expect from Bahrain?
Absolutely. I'm not sure I can quite generate the absolute volume that Davide is often able to, but I am really, really excited for this debut, this new esports season. Bahrain, very, very abrasive venue, and there's not one racer down there that's not going to be thinking about that tight first corner off the line. Super, super tricky hairpin, and then a switch back. It's going to catch someone out today.
And it's also the first time we've had it in the F1 esports calendar. It wasn't on the calendar last year, whereas the other 2 races this evening were. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens. As they were just alluding to there, it's so tight in qualifying. 6 tenths takes you all the way down to Chembol Bassi in 16th on the grid.
Incredibly close. And I was talking to a couple of the lads backstage just earlier on. I really think the slipstream has played out through this qualifying session, and certainly the little bit of gap you see in the middle of the field could be those that just got a tow down the long Bahrain straights versus those who didn't.
And I think that's going to be something very entertaining in the race as well, because the slipstream is going to be such a crucial key part of it, and the DRS added into that as well.
It's going to be super, super tight for the first race of the season. We've had the pro draft, we've got our lineups ready, and I'm really, really excited to see how the new drivers fare against the old boys this year.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at this Bahrain circuit then, under the floodlights as it is in real life, and you can see the start-finish straight at the top there. The cars go clockwise around it. We've got 3 DRS zones as well, so this is going to be a very, very entertaining first race of the 2019 F1 New Balance Esport Pro Series. Rasmussen on pole, BEREZNAY alongside him, all 5 lights are on, and we're racing in Bahrain. Pretty good start from the Red Bull of Rasmussen as they come down towards the first corner. The Alfa Romeo on the left-hand side, that is Daniel BEREZNAY. The Renault of Otmir looking pretty racy towards the inside, and there goes the Ferrari, Tonitza. Tonitza gets through, up into second place, so all of a sudden, Rasmussen from pole seemed to get a good start, but suddenly finds himself back in third position up towards turn 4. Doesn't fancy a look, goes to the outside, not quite able to do it, so pole to third.
And Rasmussen's really been hustled out, left out on the outside, and it's just he turned right and right and right down into this middle section of the lap, and he just could not get back to the racing line to maintain the position, losing place after place. Let's see if he can recover through the second phase of this first lap.
14 laps to go, a pit stop in there as well. Most of the front runners starting on the soft compound of tyre, maybe some towards the back, as you can see from Bono Huis in 13th all the way down are on the medium compound of tyre, as well as Patrick Holtzman, who's up into 10th place, having dropped a couple of places off the start, maybe because he started on that medium compound. But it's the Alfa of Daniel BEREZNAY that's leading. Then it's half a second back to David Tonitza in the Ferrari, and this is FREDERIK Rasmussen in the Red Bull that we're watching in third place. Now, all of these cars have exactly the same physics. They're just different liveries, different shapes, but they are all equal as they come into the final corner as we look at Marcel KIEFER.
Absolutely. Important to note, not just the same performance over a lap but indeed the absolute same performance, corner by corner. There are no differences between the cars. We see a move in the midfield.
Marcel KIEFER going past Sally Southend for 5th position up the inside, and that move is made then. So the Racing Point machine makes it up into 5th position. Patrick Crutch has also just got past Isaac Price in the Williams as we go on board again with FREDERIK RASMUSSEN, who was Brendan Leigh's closest challenger last season. Leigh himself started this race in 10th position, so not an ideal qualifying for him, but Rasmussen is looking good. Tonitsa is pretty close to the back of the race leader Daniel BEREZNAY as well. Brendan Leigh's up into 6th place though. Here he is, and he'll want to make progress. A 2-times champion was not coming here to qualify 10th.
Absolutely, and yeah, really difficult qualifying session for Brendan Leigh. Could have been one of those guys that just missed out a little bit on the toe. Team radio. Oh no, he's just
coming at the end of this lap.
So coming in at the end of this lap is the message to Sally Southend there in 7th place. That's good old Jeff on the radio, and it's fairly early to pit, to be honest, but we'll see whether everybody else decides to follow suit.
We should mention for the first time this year, Team Radio is actually Team Radio. There are guys in the back room here giving these drivers information that they need strategically. Relatively locked out on the strategy in terms of these shorter races, but there are options, and it is really important to be pitting at exactly the right moment. DRS enabled then, and now the action will spice up as we begin lap 3 of this contest.
You saw BEREZNAY there a moment ago with the full headset on and the little boom microphone allowing him to speak to the team, so that is how that has changed for this season. At the moment, BEREZNAY still leading, and if anything, it's Rasmussen in the Red Bull that's closer to the Ferrari of Tonitsa than Tonitsa is to BEREZNAY. Still lurking in the back of all that, meanwhile, is Jarno Opmeer, the Dutch driver, making his F1 Esports debut this year in that yellow Renault, running in 4th place. The rest of the top 10 pretty much are fairly regular esports racers that we've heard of over the last couple of years, but Opmeer new to the series this season.
And what BEREZNAY is doing right now, notoriously difficult. You tend to have to use a little bit more ERS deployment to run out at the front of the field, just because ERS deployment to run out at the front of the field, because the guys behind you will have the DRS to use to catch you up, and then that can really hurt you then later on in the race as you start to eke away at how much energy there is remaining to use in the car. We can really see those guys who've led out of the front lap after lap after lap get swallowed after the pit stops at the end of the races.
Lap 4 of 14 as Daniel BEREZNAY comes across the line, still leading the way. This is Cedric Tomei we're watching here. He's under big pressure from Vias in the Haas as they come down. They're both ahead of Bono Huis now in the McLaren. Onto the brakes into turn 1. No one able to make a move just yet. In fact, the Renault of Tomei going in a little bit deep. The German. Oh, here comes an attack around the outside. FREDERIK RASMUSSEN trying to get past David Tonitsa for 2nd place. Not able to do it there, but he is mighty close to the back of that Ferrari.
Yeah, very difficult to get round the outside of turn 2. Car tends to wash out with a little bit of understeer, but you sense it is just a matter of time, don't you, for 2nd place. And let's see if Rasmussen can make that move as we head down into turn 9. Super tricky braking zone, easy to pluck a left front, which he does. Hunting then Tonitsa for 2nd place, and since he's just biding his time, let's see how this little battle plays out at the front of the field.
Up the hill with the left-hander of turn 11. Switch back through 12 and then down towards 13, which takes them out onto the back straight towards the last couple of corners. And Rasmussen, the good news with Tonitsa is he's close enough to BEREZNAY that he will have DRS going down the start and finish straight as well, I would have thought. There you can see FREDERIK RASMUSSEN in the bottom left.
Drivers have been commenting that the DRS is slightly less effective this year, and that move is just a little bit harder to make. There is a little bit of aero wash built into the simulation model, and so you really do need that DRS to stay in touch. Let's see if it plays out now for Rasmussen. Of course, both drivers with DRS, as in they're both within a second of BEREZNAY, so difficult to make that move when the driver in front of you also has that drag reduction effect.
You heard the little beep there. That means you can open the DRS coming up towards turn 4. On board again with Rasmussen. Super late on the brakes, and At the moment, BEREZNAY is doing a good job to hold these guys off. Jarno Opmeer in fourth has started to drop back a little into the clutches of Marcel KIEFER. Then Brendon Leigh still in sixth place. Saltung, Juanito, Haddad and Tomei, the rest of the top 10. So Tomei managed to hold off that attack from Beers earlier on. As they come down into turns 9 and 10 and out onto the back straight. They're all very, very close to the back of the Alfa Romeo now. Here's Patrick Crutch down in 14th position as they swing it through the left-hander, and he comes out onto the back straight. But Rasmussen and Tanica right together at 5 and 14.
A clear split then between the leaders who are running on that softer tyre, all looking to get away, of course, in the early phases of the race, and those who are running on the medium tyre. I wonder how long it will be now until the leaders look to come for pit lane on that softer tyre, and how busy that pit lane will be. Of course, no control over the release of the car. Tends to be a little bit of a lottery through the pit lane phase, who'll be able to get in and out before everybody else.
Lap 6 of 14 then. BEREZNAY leading, and there's the first pit stop then. Patrick Crutch is coming through, and there's David Tanica in the lead. David Tanica in the Ferrari has found his way past Daniel BEREZNAY, and now BEREZNAY is going side by side with Rasmussen coming up into turn 4. Oh, he's hit him. Round goes Daniel BEREZNAY. What a disaster for the Alfa Romeo driver.
Oh man, what a stupid man.
Well, a really frustrated Daniel BEREZNAY then. We'll get a look back at that in a moment, but Tanica now leads, Rasmussen second, BEREZNAY down to 7th.
Yeah, it looked like he just got in a little bit too deep. I'm not sure that was an overtaking move. Let's see if we can have a look of that again and see exactly what happened down into T1.
Was he trying to pass Tanica here, or is he actually just fighting the Red Bull?
I think he's just got in super deep under fence for the Red Bull, and then realised that Tanica is on the apex, but he's committed, he can't get out of it. Contact he knows he shouldn't be having. We heard the team radio, and unfortunately lost a few places with a spin as a result.
And I think Rasmussen's picked up some damage in that too, because he's already behind Jarno Opmeer, and he's got Marcel KIEFER going up the inside into the final corner, and KIEFER goes up into 3rd place. Then you see the change on the tower on the left hand side, and meanwhile diving into the pits comes everybody. Opmeer, KIEFER in, and Rasmussen in. Now Rasmussen's pit stop may be a little longer. He may decide to change his front wing. In he comes now, and we'll see how quick that pit stop is. David Tanica, though, stays out in the lead of the race for Ferrari. Most of the drivers who were on softs have now pitted.
And you can see fuel mix and settings being managed then by Tanica. He knows this tour of the circuit needs to be a fast one. It's all about track position in the pit race here, because I imagine he will look to box at the end of this lap and maintain his position at the front of the field in front of everybody who's boxed. Brendon Leigh, also the other driver staying out, I would imagine, will be running a similar kind of strategy. Fast lap times now. If Lewis Hamilton was in this race, it would be hammer time for both of those drivers at the front of the field.
Leah time?
Leah.
Lap 7 and 14 then. Tanica and Leigh on the soft tyres. Kwiat is the first of the runners on the medium tyres that is yet to stop. And the other issue that these guys are having, like FREDERIK Rasmussen here, he's pitted for the soft, from the softs to the mediums, but he's come out in amongst the medium runners who haven't yet made a pit stop, and Tanica stays out. No, he doesn't, sorry, that's the back straight. Let's see what he does coming through this time around. But the likes of Rasmussen, KIEFER, Opmeer, they're all coming out amongst some of the runners that haven't pitted yet. So in comes David Tanica. Let's see where he emerges compared to the previous front runners.
And an absolutely clear, I say there's an absolutely clear pit stop for Tanica. He's of course got Leigh coming in behind him, so he should be able to escape without a difficult release, and that's very critical in not losing time, having to wait for others to be released. Let's see if he manages to get out in front of the chasing pack as they come through the final corner. I would imagine he would be able to look like a pretty decent lap into the pits, and indeed he does. So it's just a question of how this race goes in terms of warm-up, A, and performance, B, on that medium tyre for Tanica as the second stint of the race wears on. 6 laps to go in this one.
So, Tonitsa there in the net lead of the race, in 5th place. Opmeer in 2nd place, essentially. And then has Sally Soutek managed to get him into 3rd position net? I think he has, because he started in 5th place on the grid. I think he's managed to get past Marcel KIEFER in that round of pit stops. So good work from Soutek, and we'll just have to wait to see where Caraton, Cruch, Lorito and Feller emerge once they have made their pit stops, because they are the last 4 that are yet to make a stop.
Another man who's jumped a few spots, looking about a net 6th right now, is Brendan Leigh, from what for him was a pretty disappointing qualifying. It looks like he's managed to make a strategic jump, and those midfield positionings are critical for the teams, especially. You know, you've got 3 drivers per team. Not every driver is participating in every race, but very much, you know, a team structure and a team game. If these drivers, if not a chance to win the race, have a chance to score points for their team, it is super important here with so many events per weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 races today, and then we've got loads more races coming up before we get to the grand final later on this year. Into the pits comes Feller and Lorito. Only Alvaro Caraton, the Spaniard racing for the Williams team, is yet to come into the pits. So this battle we're watching is 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, essentially. It's so Brendan Leigh's actually gained another place, hasn't he? He's in a net 5th position now. So Tonitsa effectively leads, then Opmeer, then Soutek, then KIEFER, then Leigh, then Enzo Benito.
Just to show you how tight this field is, BEREZNAY, of course, got caught out in that little bit of contact. We see some squabbling in the middle of the field. That's Rasmussen trying to make his way back through. BEREZNAY, after the nose change and the various issues that he had at the start of the race, now languishing down in 17th place as Rasmussen, having made the move, is now under the defensive. It's all action in the midfield, and that final haul of points around the back of the top 10 is hardly contested.
Yeah, and a reminder, FREDERIK Rasmussen in the Red Bull started from pole position, but contact with Daniel BEREZNAY, who, as you say, is now down in 17th place, has really put a pay to his hopes today, and he'll be hoping to score more points come the rest of the afternoon. Also a point for fastest lap if you are inside the top 10, just like real Formula 1, which is new for F1 Esports this year. So here comes Rasmussen up behind Tomei, who I think this is for the final points paying position, if he can get past FREDERIK Rasmussen, as they, depending on where Caraton comes out of the pits, looks to the inside down into turn 1, late on the brakes. I think he's showed the nose, and he holds it around the outside there, Cedric Tomei, and if anything, Bono Huis could be the one to take advantage in the McLaren.
Smart driving from Tomei. He left him a space on the apex to get it all wrong, as we see a late move on Rasmussen. Rasmussen learns from Tomei and does exactly the same thing. Leaves him a car's width on the apex for his nose to go into, so he doesn't get a knock. Just carries on around the outside of turn 1, takes the line for turn 2. Late move. I think that's Bolok Bassi up the inside of Huis. Let's see if he can hold on to that position on the exit. And indeed, he cannot. You'll not be going around the outside of turn 10. You might be cutting back, and it's very, very hardly fought through the midfield.
Yeah, Bono Huis under pressure from Bolok Bassi. Huis, a multiple champion in Formula Sim racing, has been winning championships since he was 14, but had a little struggle really last year. He and the whole McLaren Shadow team wasn't quite the season they were expecting, hoping for better here. Enzo Benito and Bono Huis both had flashes throughout the season, but nothing really to write home about. Lap 10 of 14, David Tonitsa still leading the way, 1.8 seconds clear. That's a bold move. That was Alvaro Caraton going past Joni Tormala for 14th place. Tormala dropping down a position. This is Brendan Leigh now trying to get past Marcel KIEFER for 4th position, but Leigh is still in that 5th spot. Down in the bottom right, you see David Tonitsa, the race leader for Ferrari, but on the main pictures, we've got the Mercedes right up behind the Racing Point. Not quite close enough for the move. KIEFER locks up, but he'll hold that place for now at least.
Manages to force a little bit of an error. This is when we'll see who's been managing the energy, the ERS system, all the way through the race so far. Who has a little bit of deployment left to play with in the closing laps, and who has used up absolutely everything that the car has been producing in the braking zones all the way through the race. Obviously, lap by lap, the drivers are limited, but also through the race there's only so much energy the car produces, and if you just bleed away at that, then you really can have very little left to play with at the end of the race. Very much a strategic game, lap on lap. Brendan Leigh has been making quiet progress through the race. Interestingly, Holtzman, the top man who started on the medium tyre, so that soft tyre strategy that the leaders ran, certainly seems to have played dividends. Now let's see who's been able to use the DRS effectively to save their energy and make progress at the end of this contest.
Yeah, Holtzman started in 8th and is still running in 8th, but because he's switched it that way around, he's theoretically on the faster tyre now. So can he find his way past Daniele Haddad, the Italian for the Sport Pezza Racing Point F1 Esports team? On board we go with Sally Sautunk in 3rd place at the moment. Jarno Opmeer in front. That's Sally there in the bottom left. David Tonitza's relatively checked out. We're on lap 12 of 14. And he's over a second ahead of Opmeer, who's going to be very, very busy defending in the closing couple of laps. 2.5 to go. And Marcel KIEFER is right behind as well. So we saw earlier on with Tonitza, sorry, it was BEREZNAY leading, wasn't it, out? When you've got a couple of cars behind you, all with the DRS, you're going to struggle.
But Tonitza's critically, he's broken that 1 second gap now, and so he's not going to be under pressure from DRS out at 1.9 seconds ahead of the field. Opmeer stealthed his way to the front, didn't he? A little bit of a jump through the pit stops, and now looks to be under a tiny bit of pressure for 2nd place, but really jumped everyone through the pit stop phase, and now is clocking up the laps at the front with 2 laps to go. Let's see if he can hold on to that position in the Renault.
Impressive stuff from the 18-year-old Dutchman. Opmeer running in 2nd place. Sally Sautunk chasing him though as they come into the braking zone for turns 14 and 15. The last 2 corners on the, well, it's the last corner on the circuit, but there's a little kink after there that's technically turn 15 as they come across the line again now. Penultimate lap of the first F1 Esports race of the season. It's been, oh, look at that, we've got a bit of weaving going on now from Opmeer, trying to break the toe, trying to break the slipstream. KIEFER coming in so late on the brakes there, but he manages to get it stopped and hit the apex. So this is really, and look how close Sautunk is to the back of Opmeer. This is really going to spice up in the final 2 laps as they come up towards turn 4. Not quite close enough.
They've been winding it up for laps, waiting, ready to pounce, and this is the moment. A lot of overtaking opportunities here at the Bahrain circuit, a lot of opportunities to break their toe too. Need to make sure that they don't move around too many times, otherwise they'll be attracting the attentions of race steward for this weekend, driver steward Jordan King.
And no one wants to attract his
and nobody
attention,
wants to attract his attention unduly. Or Julie, even. So let's see what they've got at the end of this lap. Sautunk look like that might be his potentially his gambit for that 2nd position. Let's see if he's got something on the final opportunity of the lap, which is down to turn 17 on the straight, which follows on from this right-hander. Final straight we go then. Tonitza looking very much stable out in the lead, little bit of toe braking going on.
Brendan Leigh is the sort of dark horse in all this. He's in 5th place, he's at the back of this queue in the Mercedes. He's actually dropped a little bit away from Marcel KIEFER compared to a moment ago, but you've got Opmeer, Sautunk, KIEFER, Leigh all running together, and Leigh is the one with relatively no pressure from behind because he's got a 9/10 of a second gap to Enzo Benito, so he's going to be there to pick up the pieces if anything goes wrong as we're on to the final lap of the first race of the season in the 2019 F1 New Balance Esports Pro Series.
You've got to wonder if Opmeer wouldn't be better just using the absolute maximum pace of the car and moving forward as quickly as possible rather than thinking too much about what's behind him. Obviously, in the final laps of these esport races, they're in the pressure cooker of the environment here. You cannot look too hard in the mirrors because the guy you're looking at in the mirrors is probably sitting next to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Here they come then, out onto the back straight once more for the final time. I mean, really, this is kind of the last overtaking opportunity unless you can get a mega run down the back straight into the final corner. David Tonitza's now 2.3 seconds ahead of Opmeer, so he's been very, very impressive out in the front of this one. Opmeer in 2nd, 4/10 ahead of Sautunk. KIEFER in 3rd, but here comes David Tonitza then, down towards the final corner. Looks as though he's going to take victory in the first race of the season.
Godzilla! Dio! Ah, grande David, sei il nostro.
Across the line goes Stanitsa to take the victory. 2.5 seconds ahead of Otmir. The fireworks light up, and look, some damage coming off in the end as they nudge into each other on the slowdown lap. Otmir holding on for second. Great race from Sally Saltung to take third position. Fourth place going the way of Marcel KIEFER, and Brendan Leigh, you have to say, from 10th on the grid, that is a good drive to get him into fifth, because it wasn't an absolute crazy race. You know, it was fairly standard. There wasn't a lot of overtaking in general. So for Brendan Leigh to go from 10th to 5th was a good effort.
No, really. I mean, when they come across the line so close to each other that the AI can't handle it effectively on the line and there's nudges, you know that it's been a little bit of a stalemate at the front. Like you say, Brendan Leigh really made progress just slowly and steadily all the way through the race. Little bit of strategy, little bit of pace, and ends up in a good position at the end.
Yeah, well, a great drive from Brendan Leigh. Third place going the way of Sally Saltung. Jana Otmir in second place, but the runaway winner, the first win for Ferrari in their first race, goes the way of David Stanitsa, and he's speaking to Rosanna Tennant.
David, congratulations. What a way to kick off the championship. What did you make of your first race?
Thank you. It's an amazing feeling. I mean, this was my first ever race in the Pro Series, and also it was the first race for the team. So I won it. It's just an amazing feeling.
You were battling very hard with Daniel BEREZNAY. What did you make of the incident that sent him to the back?
I don't really know what happened. Maybe we will see later. But I was braking and he went into me. So maybe we will check later.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done indeed. Lovely to see Rosanna there chatting to the winner there. A very happy David Stanitsa winning in his first F1 Pro Series race. Here's confirmation of the results from that first race. I'm standing here next to Callum. And Callum, well, look at that. I mean, what a race from David Stanitsa. His debut, also Otmir's debut as well. And Sally Saltung proving why he was picked by Alfa Romeo.
What a debut for both of them. I mean, amazing race. Very, very close as well.
Yeah, and celebrating. I mean, you don't often expect that. The nerves would have been jangling for David, but he just turns up and he almost looked like a veteran. He looked like he'd been here for the last 2 years.
Yeah, in control completely. So amazing, amazing start. Really impressed.
And obviously, we're watching it on lap 7. There was the incident. Now, I want to talk to you about that. If we watch it again, Daniel BEREZNAY and Stanitsa, he was overtaken by him. But what did you make of this?
I think it was just a mistake, pushing a bit too hard. Obviously, if you're looking on the outside of the driver that you're trying to overtake, sometimes you're just prepared to watch where they're braking, and I think he's gone in a little bit too hard and then obviously misjudged it. But you know, these are mistakes. Everyone's pushing hard and competing.
Yeah, indeed. I think it was a oh my gosh from Daniel out of his mouth there at the end. So he was in the fault there. If that was you were in Daniel's shoes, would you be just beating yourself up a bit like I made a mistake, or would you be thinking, what's Stanitsa done there?
No, I mean, you've got to take that one as yourself. Unfortunately, everyone makes mistakes, but yeah, you just take it and learn from it and move on, I guess.
Okay, well, let's see if Daniel has done that. Let's get to Daniel now and get his take on what happened. He's with Rosanna.
Daniel, it looks like you're disappointed with today's result. Talk us through what happened. David said he didn't see what went on between you.
So David overtook me. I already locked up on the first turn, and therefore he did a good switchback move and went past me. And after I defended the middle line of the track against Freddy, and I just tried to brake in a normal way that I usually do. David was far ahead of me, but I made a huge mistake and I hit the car in front after I lost the end and hit Freddy a bit as well. So I basically destroyed my race, and I'm also sorry to David and Freddy. Luckily, David got away with any damage, and Freddy got involved a bit in the racing incident. I can't say anything more. I have 2 more races today, so I have to focus on those.
Good luck for them.
Thank you very much.
Right, let's have a look firstly at Brendon Leigh, the champion of 2 years in a row. And he had a very difficult qualifying session, starting in 10th, but he showed that he still has the racecraft, even if he is struggling for pace at this particular moment in the series. He's already up to 9th off the start, which shows that there is a little bit of wheel banging as well. Into turn 1, nicely pinched on the apex, which I think is where you want to be at turn 1 Bahrain. Then a little bit more contact with the Sport Pacer Racing Point car, gets a warning as well, but up into 8th. Benito and KIEFER fighting right in front of him as well. Benito runs a little bit wide, but Brendon just keeping himself to himself, keeping it calm, but also making the moves, especially in lap 1. I think that's the best opportunity. F1 2019 by Codemasters. The slipstream isn't as powerful, I don't think, as the previous game, and look at that. Great little move from Brendon Leigh. I heard a "ho" from Jack Nicholls as well. But yeah, it was a great little move from him as well, just kind of diving out of the slipstream, up the inside and up into 7th. Now, the other thing is, of course, the crash with Daniel BEREZNAY, which we did have a look at. But I'm going to have another look on this beautiful touchpad. And if we just have a look on this front right, you'll be able to see he goes in far too hot. You can see the smoke pluming off his tyre. He also hits into Rasmussen. So we'll have a look at the Rasmussen on board as well. But that completely ruins Danny BEREZNAY's race. And it also ruins Rasmussen's race, because he loses a bit of his end plate as well, which is catastrophic in this F1 Esports series. You need every single bit of downforce that you can possibly get. So Rasmussen and BEREZNAY's race completely ruined.
Oh, I like it. He brings the drama, doesn't he, Callum? He brings the drama, and I respect that. So, David Tunisia has won the first race of 2019. As you can see, the drivers behind me getting ready for race 3. But the question is, before we get to that, can David Tunisia stay on top in race 2? You don't have long to wait, because when we come back, we'll have coverage of China after this short break.
Need for Speed Underground.
F1 2007.
Grand Prix 4 on PC, obviously.
Something like F1 99. Favorite corner? Beckett's. Favorite corner?
Parabolica of Monza.
Favorite corner?
Beckett's Chapel.
Maybe castle section of Baku. Baku castle section. I don't know the name, but left-handed in Bahrain.
Pizza.
Pizza.
Pasta.
Pizza.
Pizza.
Okay, favorite app, YouTube. I just won.
Instagram.
WhatsApp.
Wait 1 second.
Maybe Eye of the Tiger, Rocky.
I don't really do much karaoke, but if I had to do one.
One of Ed Sheeran's songs.
The Greatest Showman, yeah. Anything from them in that movie, really.
Win a race.
Win the race.
Winning a race, of course. You get points for that. I have to say yes, but I don't know yet.
Yes. Of course.
Welcome back, and what a start to the new season for the first ever race in Bahrain in the F1 Esports New Balance Pro Series. And I tell you what, it finished David Tunisia in first, Johan Opmeer in second, and Sally Soltak in third.
This was my first ever race in the Pro Series. It's just an amazing feeling.
He looks very happy. A little thumbs up there. Is that going to be his race celebration? If he wins a game, would he up it a little bit? Maybe do something different, Matt? What do you reckon? Two thumbs. 2 races, 2 thumbs. Perfect. It'll be toes if he wins 3. Right then. Listen, gentlemen, they can't relax because they obviously need to get to that race 2, which has happened already, but we'll be getting to there in just a second, because as you can see behind me, some nervous faces on these drivers who are getting ready for Baku, which is race 3. Matt, we head across to China, race 2, Shanghai. Who have you got your eye on heading into this race?
It's difficult to tell. Bahrain was so close, and they kind of struggled a bit to overtake. And I think China will be the same sort of thing. You'll probably see quite a lot of single file action. But I think obviously Tanitsa, what an unbelievable performance from him. He's kind of come from nowhere, being in the draft picks, and now all of a sudden he's won the first race. He's obviously on a high momentum sort of roll. So for him, he'll be looking good. Otmir is again. That was one of my picks, and he did all right, didn't he?
Do you see what he's done there, Callum? I knew he would do that. I knew he would do that. That's enough from you, Matt. Callum, let's look at this race. Have you raced China yourself?
No, I've never driven China, but obviously I've been watching, and hopefully one day I'll get to drive it.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Those fingers are still crossed, and a finger wag from Matt. What should they do going into this race? Obviously, it'd be as fast as possible. You said there wasn't much overtaking, but Brendan Leigh obviously managed to go from 10th to 5th. Is it the same sort of track? What do they look out for here?
I think it's lap 1. Brendan made quite a few moves in lap 1, up to 8th and then 7th by halfway around lap 1. So that was where he made most of his moves, but we also know that you can't win a race on lap 1. I'm sure that's something that you get told a lot, Callum, in real life.
You can definitely lose one on lap 1. So.
And of course, we saw the Daniel BEREZNAY incident earlier. And one man who knows his way around this track is Daniel BEREZNAY. Now, he was part of the winning Mercedes team last season, finishing second to Brendan Leigh in the Drivers' Championship. But in the summer, he decided against renewing his contract with the Silver Arrows, opting instead for a new challenge at Alfa Romeo, where he has quickly become the main man.
Welcome to LEIGH Esports, and welcome to where Alfa Romeo Racing is based. First room is the simulator room, where we spend most of the time practicing for the F1 Esports competition. Last year I was racing with Mercedes. Brendon was the fastest driver compared to me, so he pushed me forward. It was a great experience for me. We won the Constructors' Championship and we won Drivers' Championship as well. And I'm happy to take the fight against Brendan Leigh and beat him now in other colors. Let's go upstairs now. Here is the office part. A lot of team members here, all focusing on their work. And we have 2 more sims. Places with the Logitech wheel. All the equipments that we use in the official Formula 1 Esports series are here, so we can simulate those events as closely as possible with the maximum amount of correlation. Third floor of the LEIGH HQ. It is a meeting room, so the most important meetings are up here. Door is closed, looks like something is going on, so I won't disturb. I play the guitar as well, and I sing quite slow songs actually, not these rock or electric music like many esports players listen to. I actually participated in X Factor in 2017. Music is always a good break for me. It's another world that I always like to be in. I sing a lot to my teammates, to be honest. I'm not sure if they enjoy it a lot. While we are on a formation lap, and I know I don't disturb anyone, then I start to sing random stuff. I want to be able to sing We Are the Champions after the 4th event, so hopefully we can make up to that.
I have to say, every room in that house had a sim rig in it. The only place poor Daniel can sing is up in the balcony, upstairs on the roof, probably disturbing other neighbours. But listen, the setup's there. Daniel BEREZNAY, we know how good he is. From last year, he was winning at Spa, he was winning at Abu Dhabi. Is that just a blip, that first race today, Matt?
Well, he's shown that he's got the pace. That's the important thing for this series as a whole. But also, it was weird to see that mistake. It was very much almost because he's now number 1. You can kind of see that he wants to be that person that wins the Drivers' Championship. So it was almost a little bit too urgent, really. It's the first race. Let's go for 18 points and then come back into the next race. But yeah, he lost all those points. You could hear his team radio as well. He was very, very upset.
Yeah. Does it? I don't want to use the word pressure all the time, Callum, but when you are the number 1 guy, you do feel it. You have to deliver. You have to. You become a little bit tighter when you're out there driving.
Yeah, definitely. It makes a difference whether or not you notice it. But I think, going back to what you were saying earlier, when you're in a long championship, mistakes happen at some point, whether it's at the beginning or at the end. And maybe this is a good thing to happen, that for the rest of the season you're a bit more consistent and more aware.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping he does win because I want to hear him sing. That's definitely, you only sing when you're winning. That could happen. He's got the pace, though, hasn't he? As you look at that last race in Bahrain, he was up there. It just didn't go right for him. So what can he do going into this? If he's got the pace, how can he stay more consistent?
Well, he needs to make sure, obviously, the qualifying is good because it's a short race, 25%, so he has to make sure that he's up near the front of the field. And also, he needs to make sure that he doesn't do silly moves like that. But the good thing is that he knew immediately. He was like, why did I do that? I'm an idiot. I've lost 25 points. So I think that he will, as Callum said, have learned from that. And maybe he'll have a more of a measured approach in this next one. We'll see.
Well, let's have a look at the grid right now as how we stand as we go into race 2, which is in Shanghai, China. Apparently, it's a beautiful track, though, Callum. If you do get to race there, obviously try and get a couple of days off as well. Do a bit of sightseeing as well if you can. Let's have a look at that grid, Matt. What are you noticing there?
Well, obviously, BEREZNAY having a fantastic qualifying. BRENDON LEIGH down in 8th. Again, another poor performance from him, 9/10 off pole. That's not something we have ever seen, really, in this F1 Esports series. You've got Jarno Opmeer, well, my boy down in 11th, so don't listen to me either. But yeah, BRENDON LEIGH's teammate down in 14th as well. So Mercedes struggling at the moment, but then you've got Amos Lorito, the other Ferrari driver, down in 16th. So it's mixed up.
Yeah, and Alvaro Carreton, which I love saying that name, he was obviously doing so well at the end of last season. You don't like to see him in 20th in that position, do you? And also Chembalik Bassi there in 19th.
Yeah, well, the qualifying was actually a mixed condition one. It was very much a set a lap or it's too wet. So for these guys, it was pressure, as you don't like to keep calling it.
Yeah.
And we saw that the top guys, managed to get the front.
Yeah, indeed. I'm missing Davide Valsecchi, but I have to say, what a replacement! Alex Brundle up with the Jack. How are you finding working with Jack, Alex?
I've done so before with reasonable success, but I'm enjoying it much more today. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, listen, gentlemen, I'll leave it with you. Jack, you're looking forward to this one, and what did you take from race 1?
Yes, I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great, isn't it? A second race coming up, and a similar sort of feel to the front of the order with BEREZNAY on pole position again. Tonitsa, last time he started 3rd, now he's starting 4th. We're seeing a sort of order arrive.
Yeah, it's a really, really tough first couple of corners, and there are plenty of options to make your way through the field, up the inside, or indeed all the way around the outside, and taking the left-hander of turn 3 on your way back into the back straight.
Well, let's have a look at the circuit then in China, the Shanghai International Circuit. It's 5.4 kilometers long, 16 corners, but as you say, it's that 1 kilometer long back straight that can really cause trouble and chance for overtaking. So it's Daniel BEREZNAY on pole position again. Marcel KIEFER in the racing point alongside him on the front row. All 5 lights are on. Quite a long hold, but we're racing in China. Decent start from BEREZNAY as they come down towards the first corner. That right-hander, can KIEFER get his nose up the inside? Whoa, BEREZNAY swept in there fairly confidently. Round the outside goes Sally Sautung, and it could be an Alfa Romeo 1-2 here by the time they come out of turn 3. Great stuff for the Alfa team. In fact, they're side by side, almost made contact with each other. Bono Huis in the McLaren is pulling up alongside David Tonitsa as they get onto the brakes into turn 6. Oh, that's 3 into 1, just about making it through without any contact. Nice racing. BEREZNAY leads, Sautung up into 2nd, KIEFER 3rd, Tonitsa 4th, Huis 5th, BRENDON LEIGH into 6th place, having started in 8th place on the grid.
And you can imagine no team orders at this phase of the year. Who is going to be the top dog at Alfa Romeo? These teams choosing race by race which drivers they're going to enter, and it's so important for these drivers to establish themselves as the top man in their team this early phase in the year.
We're on board with David Tonitsa then. No DRS on this particular run. You can see him there on the inset, leader of the championship at the moment with the win in the first race. But look how long this back straight is, side by side further back. I think that was Patrick Crouch going side by side with Jarno Opmeer. Is anyone going to fancy it? Coming down into the hairpin of turn 14. None of the front runners are. Enzo Benito's going past Villas, and Isaac Price has just lost a couple of places. But it's an Alfa Romeo 1-2.
Look at that long back straight. Switch on DRS already. Come on. Midfield, this is Tonitsa, race 1 winner, following him as we enter the start of the second lap. Teammate is in the pits. We have a message from him, so I don't know if that's yes, and of course Lorito, I think that was potentially contact on lap 1 then, in that snail of turn 1, 2 and 3. Can be so difficult when you're picking a line through there to make sure no contact heading down into turn 5. the hairpin before the sweepers in the middle of the lap. Stalemate at this phase.
That was Marcel KIEFER we were just getting a look at there. Also pitting on the opening lap was Patrick Holtzmann, unfortunately, the German, as we go on board with David Tonitza into this sweeping sequence of corners through turns 7 and 8, and then down into 9 and 10, the double left-hander that takes you back out towards that long back straight once more. So BEREZNAY leads, Sautuk second, KIEFER third, Tonitza fourth, Rasmussen fifth, Leigh sixth, and then Kuijs, who was up in fourth place, I think at the start of the race, has now dropped back to seventh, having qualified in fifth place. And now Enzo Benito here is under big pressure from Patrick Krutsch as they come out onto the back straight. Mercedes dominated last season with Brendan Leigh and Daniel BEREZNAY, but it's not been quite as easy this year. And whoa, there's a look to the inside on the grass. Benito squeezing Krutsch, but Krutsch should get that job done up the inside. Nice move.
Oh, brave move. Little bit of side-to-side contact on the apex, and let's see how much that costs Benito down into the final corner. Certainly seems like that toe braking tactic is one that almost everyone employs. Must be super critical to make sure the guy behind doesn't have the opportunity to overtake you down the long back straight. I have done a few laps of Shanghai. Amazing experience, Callum. Brilliant. One of the highlights of my career. Well, I do know it's very, very difficult to follow somebody through the middle section of sweepers in sector 2 in the middle of the lap. So if you do get the opportunity to have a run down that long back straight, you really do have to be brave, play your cards and take it.
You can hear Sally Sautuk, who we're on board with there, just feathering the throttle through the left-hander of 7 as he was right up behind his teammate Daniel BEREZNAY as they come up towards the left-hander of 11 again. Marcel KIEFER still in there, but this is the lap, as I say, where the drag reduction system will be enabled, so they can open that flap in the rear wing, gain some more straight line speed if they're within a second of the car in front, and Sautuk certainly is going to be, as is Marcel KIEFER, so BEREZNAY could find himself a bit of a sitting duck here as they come onto the back straight. Sautuk, his teammate, is closing in. Marcel KIEFER is coming with him. How hard are these two Alfa Romeos going to fight? Not that hard at all. Sautuk goes to the inside and slots into second place, although they're going to go side by side towards the back part of the corner, but they're not. Oh, round the outside, or has one gone into the pits? Okay, into the pits then goes Daniel BEREZNAY. So on lap 3 of 14, they're pitting to change the soft tyres.
And you've got to wonder if that's just a little bit of a tactical stop to stop them fighting each other too hard. I have to admit, as the Alfa Romeo team in the box, I would be wondering if you could ask the two drivers just to DRS each other lap after lap after lap to make progress out of the front of the field and get within that critical second gap from the chasing pack as KIEFER goes straight onto the back of Sautuk to look at making a move. And I don't know if you necessarily want to be leading the field at this point, or if it's okay to just bide your time, wait for the pit stops, try to play the strategic game in the middle of this race. It certainly seems like that soft tyre is wearing out pretty quickly, or teams are comfortable to run the medium tyre really, really long into the race.
Lap 4 of 14, and it is Sally Sautuk who's leading the way. KIEFER second, third is Rasmussen, fourth is Brendan Leigh, but here is Sally Sautuk who's in the lead of the race, but for how much longer? You can see him in the bottom left there, concentrating, little eyes looking towards the mirror, and he doesn't cover the inside. Marcel KIEFER goes to the inside, and he now moves into the lead of the race with FREDERIK Rasmussen up into third position. Still that early pit stop coming in for Daniel BEREZNAY, who's dropped down to 17th. And look, everyone into the pits now. KIEFER in, Sautuk in, and I think it's only Brendan Leigh of the front runners that has stayed out there.
So they're going to be going a very, very long way into this race then on the medium tyre. You've got to wonder if that overtake, as the DRS is so strong, you've got to wonder if that overtake was strategic to get in front for the pit stops to make sure the exit way was clear, and so he didn't get caught up and lose critical seconds. But now you've got to see if Brendan Leigh is able to put the hammer down and make progress on this in-lap.
But more importantly, BEREZNAY has come out in front of his teammate, and David Tonitza is in front of KIEFER as well. So, and Sautuk has dropped behind FREDERIK Rasmussen. So Sally Sautuk, who was leading, in the Alpha, has dropped back behind a couple of other drivers and is currently in, at the moment, a net 5th position, but we still need to wait and see what Brendan Leigh, Bono Huis, and to a lesser extent Vias can do while they're staying out there on those soft compound of tyres. From Otmir, Tormala, Price, Haddad, they started on the mediums and have yet to make a pit stop.
You've got to wonder what's going on in the head of BEREZNAY as well at the moment. That bump in the first race, he would have known after that he was starting from pole position in this race. He's been knocked down and he needs to make progress in this second race to recover, firstly, his confidence, and secondly, the points which he lost in that first race, because, you know, it's so critical to get a good start to the series and be out front, in the championship, but also in the team in this phase, defending from Tonitsa in the midfield, but of course, virtually leading the race.
So into the pits now comes Huis and Leigh and Vias. So let's see where they emerge in this lead battle on slightly fresher tyres, only 1 lap fresher. Here comes Brendan Leigh, and he's been jumped by Bono Huis there. So the McLaren gets out in front of the Mercedes. Where are they going to emerge relative to everyone else? They're through to the top 3, so I think that's sort of 4th, 5th position, isn't it? So it's they've come out just behind Sally Saltunk. So I think Brendan Leigh has net lost in all of that.
Interesting, similar pattern from Brendan Leigh as we saw in the first race, staying out just a lap longer than everyone, almost the overcut, using potentially a little bit of engine mode or ERS to try to make the difference on that in-lap. In the first lap, in the first race, it worked. In the second race, he's lost out a little bit. Difference between the venues, difference between the strategies. You can't pull the same trick every week, every race.
And he'll have fresher tyres on a circuit that's it's a little easier to overtake on. So perhaps he can work his way through the order in that way. So this is the net lead of the race we're watching. The top 6 yet to stop, but Daniel BEREZNAY in the Alfa Romeo in 7th place is ultimately in the lead of this second race of the season. Tonitsa is behind him, then Marcel KIEFER, then Rasmussen. So it's 4 for the lead really, and BEREZNAY, whilst being in the lead at the moment, we're not at half race distance yet, and I think he's going to have a lot of pressure in the second half of this race as they come down the back straight. We're on board with Marcel KIEFER. That's the 21-year-old on the inside as he watches Tonitsa go side by side with BEREZNAY to the outside. He won't be able to go around the outside, and BEREZNAY shows him the door, and he has to tuck back inside. That allows KIEFER to get right back into the fight, flashing through the final corner and out onto the straight again, and KIEFER is the man that has the best opportunity to make an overtake here down into turn 1. At the same time, Tonitsa's closing on BEREZNAY, and he can't quite get it done yet.
There's a long corner to go though. There are so many options in those snail layouts to just dive down the inside, roll around the outside, and speaking of pressure, the leader and winner of race 1 at a canter fights against the spinner in race 1. You need to be so headstrong to come back from that. Let's see what Tonitsa can do to the second phase of this race, and you'd imagine he's going to have that same DRS effect absolutely every one of these last 7 laps. If BEREZNAY wants to win this race, he's going to have to repel pressure like no one's business through the second half of this race.
BEREZNAY has pace. He was second on the grid in the first race before spinning out. He was pole position in this race, but now is under pressure from David Tonitsa, and it was so close in lap times for this as well. BEREZNAY just a tenth of a second quicker than Marcel KIEFER. Is anyone going to make a move coming down the back straight into the hairpin this time around? BEREZNAY is going to be under big pressure. Does Tonitsa fancy it? BEREZNAY covers the inside line, forced to the outside, not able to. Oh, he's got the cutback coming out of the hairpin. Lovely work from David Tonitsa. Can he get the lead of the race away? BEREZNAY is going to keep his nose in. No, the Ferrari is in the lead again. David Tonitsa picked in the pro draft and suddenly finds himself leading for the second race in a row. Brendan Leigh sets the fastest lap of the race meanwhile, but great move from Tonitsa.
Fades to the outside, makes him defend, cuts back inside and just gets the traction, purely outdrags him all the way to the final corner out of the lap and just cuts him off at the apex. Let's hear from them.
Yep, David Tonitsa then in the lead of the race now. BEREZNAY in second.
I broke my brake, man. I broke my brake. I literally can't stop, man.
Oh, BEREZNAY seems to have a problem with his rig, it seems. And so he's dropping back down the order. He was there in the fight for the net lead, but now he's having to pull over out of the way of everybody else because things aren't reacting the way he needs them to. So that means that Tonitsa is in the net lead still. KIEFER second, Rasmussen third. What a disaster for BEREZNAY. Nothing's going right for him.
Well, and just like out on track, you can have a mechanical. You can have a mechanical here as well. Unfortunately, looks like, as you say, an issue with the rig, and that's just heartbreaking. You just don't think about that, do you, when you start off on an esports competition as big as this one? More fights down into turn 17, the hairpin. This is Rasmussen repelling the attentions of KIEFER.
I think he's just gone round the outside of him at the hairpin, actually. I think Rasmussen went all the way around the outside.
That was a move round the outside.
Yeah.
That must have been a serious braking effort. Both get DRS on their way down to turn one, and we'll go side by side in Understeer City, otherwise known as turn one, and very respectful racing on the apex of turn two.
Rasmussen just holds on then, so up into fourth place now, but I think we've still got two cars yet to pit at the front of the order as we get on the brakes. Lap 9 of 14. KIEFER in fifth place. Sally Southern now up into sixth position, which will be a net fourth. You can see it's Price and Haddad. There is Isaac Price, the Williams driver in the bottom right, who's yet to make a pit stop, and he is leading with Haddad in second. But effectively it's Tonitsa, Rasmussen, KIEFER, Southern, BEREZNAY. So BEREZNAY still holding on there in seventh place. So maybe just a little blip for BEREZNAY rather than something that's going to force him out of the race.
Well, the team here pretty good, and hopefully he's been attended to and is able to continue. Massively hard luck for him, especially considering the issue in race one and how well he led from pole in the early phase of this one. You can just see all drivers now, as is the tendency in Shanghai, just struggling with that front tyre, particularly the drivers who've been following in the slipstream of others, and that could play out. We tend to see he who's led, particularly he who's led within DRS range of everybody else, really suffer towards the end of the race. But perhaps maybe just that front tyre degradation with the downforce loss could play into the leader's hands here as everybody tries to follow closely in the final laps.
Brendan Lee we're on board with now, tucked up behind Bono Huis in the McLaren. I think we've lost Daniel BEREZNAY now. I think he went off at sector 3 and his race is run, so it looked as though it could keep going for a bit, but now he has retired from the race. Lap 10 of 14, on board, as I say, with Brendan Lee, whose tyres are one lap fresher than no, he did the same thing as Bono Huis, didn't he? They pitted at the same time, so this is just a pure battle over fifth position that the McLaren driver has in control at the moment. But Tonitsa leads, Rasmussen second, KIEFER third.
That's just fascinating watching Brendan Lee change ERS mode, engine mode, brake bias for every single corner, which of course you can. It's all on the steering wheel, but he has to have found out exactly what he wants with testing. And now he's sitting here in an arena with everybody watching him, just applying that knowledge lap after lap, having spent hours working out exactly the brake bias he wants, corner by corner. Very, very impressive.
On the brakes, Marcel KIEFER running in third place, Tonitsa leading, Rasmussen in second place, KIEFER third, Sally Southunk is fourth at the moment as they come through the left-hander, which takes them back out onto the start-finish straight again. Across the line, lap 11 of 14 now. So 4 to go. Joni Tormala sets the fastest lap of the race. He's in 11th place, so he won't get that point as it stands because he's not inside of the top 10. He's right up behind Enzo Benito. You can see here on the left, you could before, the place is gained since the start, and the big winner is Freddie Rasmussen, up into second place, having started in 7th place on the grid. And there he is, Rasmussen in the inset, the 19-year-old Dane who won so memorably at Baku a year ago. He's made up 5 places, Tonitsa's made up 3, and into the pits here, it's BEREZNAY. So he was still going around, but it looks as though it's finally race run for BEREZNAY, who, having started the races in second and first, the first 2 races of the season, is going to score 0 points from that. How frustrating must that be?
Box for a new brake pedal, please. And I see Lean on the side of most of our drivers' cockpit views. Lean, of course, being the mode which gives least power and uses least fuel. So I wonder if we've all got a little bit excited earlier on in this race and have potentially used a bit too much fuel and a bit too much front tyre and are in a bit of a conservation mode through until the final laps of this race, when I'm sure it will all, as it usually does and as it did in the first race, kick off again, and nowhere more so than here at the front. Or maybe he'll just kick off now, as Rasmussen heads into turn 1, inches from the gearbox of Tonitza.
Lap 12 of 14 then. Through comes the Ferrari driver, David Tonitza, making his esports debut. Freddie Rasmussen in second place. Raced here last year. Marcel KIEFER and Sally Saltunk have been racing all the time. Cedric Thome has been given a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings for something. Presumably that's track limits somewhere out on the circuit, maybe at the final corner or on the exit of the hairpin, but that will most likely be the incident for Thome, because he's not near anyone else to have any argy-bargy with. So Patrick Holtzman is in the pits as well. So.
Yeah, it tends to be the exit of the final turn. There are not really many other places where you can take to outside curbs or AstroTurf to gain too much time around Shanghai. Even the exit of the hairpin is a little bit slippery. So perhaps, as you say, final warnings maybe for contact or for off-track moments.
So here we go then, down the back straight. DRS open on Freddie Rasmussen's Red Bull as he closes in on Tonitza. He's not close enough. Still, like in real F1, pretty short braking zones coming down, even though you're coming from over 200 miles an hour down to something like 40 or 50. We go on board again with Rasmussen in second place.
Tonitza just seems to have the pace through that middle sector, and although Rasmussen, of course, gets the toe and the DRS, I mean, Tonitza just able to stay so tight there when, you know, others, we were on board with Brendan Lee just a couple of laps ago, and the amount of steering lock he was having to use to get the car turned into turn 2. Tonitza just seems to be able to continue to add steering lock and not wash wide. And of course, the cars following him losing out from a little bit of aero wash, and it seems like on balance of loss versus gain, the aero wash loss, should I say, is greater than the DRS gain. Nowhere more so than here through these sweepers in the middle of the lap. You just have to have the front wing loaded up and working for you. Let's see if Rasmussen can do something with energy modes added to DRS to have a bit of a go in the final laps down into the last hairpin. But I wonder if our race leader Tonitza has just got it under control yet again, not by quite the margin he had in Bahrain, but as he moves inside just to break that last little bit of toe. I just wonder if he's got this race under control in the final laps.
So here we go then, penultimate lap, penultimate time down into the main overtaking zone, and look how close Rasmussen is. But Freddie's a clever guy. He's not going to be just chucking one in here. He knows this is a long championship coming. 18 points as opposed to 25. Yes, 7 points might make the difference come the end of the season, but don't do anything stupid like we saw with BEREZNAY in the first race. One incident and you're scoring 0.
And you really do lose out because the field all the way down to the final car is so tight. So there are cars just sitting behind waiting to take those positions off you if you have a moment, a spin, an end fence loss, a little bit of a loss of downforce. Everybody's performing at such a level that actually you can't get away with just getting a little bit sendy and taking a front wing off. So it is clever racing from Rasmussen, but I'm sure he has the top step in his sights. You know what? They're races, and if you can win a race, then you do.
Yeah, absolutely. We are on lap 14 of 14, final lap of the race. Tonitza, he's still got that half a second buffer. That's all he's needed over the last couple of laps to hold off Rasmussen coming onto the final lap. But who's going to have the most as they come out of the final corner? Rasmussen is a little bit ahead of Marcel KIEFER as they come out onto the back straight, so he's not going to be under pressure from behind. Can the Red Bull close into Tonitsa for the final time. Tonitsa moves to the inside, then the outside to try and break the slipstream. Does Rasmussen fancy it? I thought Sally Sautung did there for a moment, but no, it looks as though David Tonitsa is going to come through the final corner and win the second round of the F1 New Balance Esports Pro Series in Shanghai.
David, great race, Tonzilla.
Bellissimo, mamma mia.
David.
Mamma mia.
David, amazing.
Tonzilla, love it.
Him Tonzilla, you Japan.
So Tonitsa is the man who takes the victory. Rasmussen in second, KIEFER third, Sautung fourth. Great drive again from Jarno Opmeer, because he started in 11th place and he's got himself up into 5th position.
Yep, stealth moves again from Otmir all the way through the field and just arrives, as we saw him do in the first race, at the front of the field. And but what a drive from Tonitsa.
Yeah, really impressive stuff. So David Tonitsa takes his second victory in 2 races. There you can see how happy he is. Well, it's not quite buzzing, but wow, how must you feel for this man, Daniel BEREZNAY? What a shame for him, because twice he started on the front row, twice he's left with 0 points.
And it is so difficult when you've had that difficult start to the event to then come back in and lead a race like that, and just awful luck for him. Let's hope he can bounce back in race 3.
Well, let's hear from a couple of our drivers. Rosanna Tennant's with them, starting with David Tonitsa, the race winner.
David, congratulations. 2 wins out of 2 races. How happy are you with your performance there?
I don't really know. It's just unbelievable. I mean, 2 races on 2 at the first event, at my first experience, it's just unbelievable.
Frederick was putting the pressure on you right up to the end. How did you keep cool and not crack under the pressure?
Yeah, I mean, it was very hard, but I managed to keep the pressure and to maintain the lead. So I'm really happy.
An excellent start. Well done.
Thank you.
I'm with Frederik Rasmussen, our second place driver. Freddie, great performance there. You really put the pressure on. What do you make of your pace so far?
The pace seems pretty good so far. I had some issues in the first race and I couldn't really show it, but in the second race I went from P7 to P2, which was pretty good, but couldn't quite get the final move done on Tonitsa.
How surprised are you by David's pace, and do you think he's your biggest contender this year?
I think he's really fast this year, and since he's won the first 2 races, I think he's one of the biggest rivals, yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to Rosanna and, of course, Freddie Rasmussen. There was always like a sly smile from Freddie Rasmussen there. We might see a proper smile at some point. But yeah, finishing second in that race, what did you take from it, gentlemen?
Yeah, Rasmussen still very much on the pace coming into 2019. Tonitsa again, Tonzilla. I love how that's actually
It's quite nice when you get a nickname, isn't it?
Yeah, even the team have bought into it. I love it. But yeah, 2 from 2. Have we made sure that it's not Brendon Leigh in that Ferrari rig? I don't know, because we haven't seen Brendon really anywhere near the front, and we've seen David dominating. I mean, he wasn't exactly pulled away, but he controlled from the front, and it was very impressive to see, considering this is his first time.
Yeah, it's kind of a breath of fresh air. Let's have a confirmation of those results. Looking at how the standings are, David Tonitsa, or Tonzilla, as I'm sure there'll be a few T-shirts being printed right now with that right across the front. Frederik Rasmussen in second place and Marcel KIEFER. It was interesting, great work from Alex and Jack as well. Jack was talking about he didn't want to do anything silly. Did you notice that from Frederik Rasmussen? He could have gone for those extra points, but decided to just sit there and take second.
I think it's clear that, you know, second is a good place for the points. It's a long championship. And he was definitely being patient, maybe close enough to try a diving move, but, you know, you've got to be careful sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like we put the pressure on Daniel BEREZNAY with all of the little videos we've shown today. It did not go well for him at all in that race, man.
No, he had his brakes fail, which unfortunate for him. You know, he came over the team radio and said, "Can I get any unlucky?" or whatever he said. You know, it's clearly not gone well for him in these first 2 races. But this is something that are going to test the drivers at some point during the series. And you can see him there just slowly going into the wall. And Brendon Leigh almost got caught up in it as well. Was not expecting the Alfa Romeo to go completely straight on at the hairpin, and you can see how much it means to him as well.
Yeah.
Danny, you know, you're speaking to him beforehand. This means so much to the guy, and he's had a very difficult time in these first 2 races, but it's about the team and the guys around him to bring him back up, because there's still 10 races or so left in this season.
Yeah, his driving style, is that something that you would focus on with Daniel BEREZNAY? Is that having an effect on him?
I think this one was just really, really bad luck, to be honest. Obviously, he's very, very quick, that's for sure. But you know, you've got to give him a chance, and unfortunately, he missed out on that opportunity there.
Yeah. How do you sort of shake that off? Now, I liked actually while we were watching the race there, Callum, you were saying you've go-karted against a couple of these people, like Chembulik Bassi. So how do you sort of forget about that race, because it's very different?
Yeah, obviously racing these guys, I know a lot of them are very good back in karting. But yeah, trying to move on from something like that is very difficult, because you know it's a short championship, but you also have got time to make it up, so there's more pressure added to what you've got to do, but you know you still got the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, at the end of that race, David Tonizza was bellissimo, mamma mia, he is loving it, and when you are driving well, when you're performing well, you're happy, you feel more confident when you're out there in a race.
Absolutely, he's got the momentum with him, and you know, Danny BEREZNAY doesn't have the momentum, and it's interesting, he might even have to change his driving style, because the way he presses the brakes are something to behold. He presses them very, very hard, and he's going to have to change them a little bit, because I think he's changed the load in his brake pedal so that he can smash on it a bit harder without potentially having these issues. So it's going to be interesting to see if Danny BEREZNAY can continue with that pace.
Yeah, I think I was spot on with my impression of David there. I think I got it just right to the sound of it all. So when you're talking about the pedals there, it actually broke. So it's not easy to quickly learn, because the setup isn't exactly as they'd have back as we saw earlier on tonight in Daniel BEREZNAY's house. So what can he do?
No, it's not exactly to his liking, and he's going to have to now adapt and change the load cell slightly on his brake pedal, which means that it goes from 65 to maybe 80 kilograms or whatever, because he presses it so hard. If we ever get a close-up of that, it's going to be frightening for the cameraman that's nearby.
Well, like a real car, I guess.
Yeah, literally, genuinely. He'd be great in a real car, so maybe you should give him a test drive.
Not up to me.
Listen, gentlemen, we are going to be moving on to race 3. Daniel BEREZNAY finished in pole position in qualifying last year. We'll find out if he has a better time. We'll be back after a very short break.
I can't remember.
Gran Turismo 5.
R Factor. Really old, like F1 2002 maybe. Favorite track is Belgium, Spa-Francorchamps.
Suzuka.
Baku.
First corner, maybe Austin, first corner.
The Baku last corner of the second sector. 3-1. Netflix.
YouTube.
Netflix.
YouTube.
Ferdinand Alonso.
Michael Schumacher.
Kimi Räikkönen.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
FREDERIK.
Dabbing.
Flossing.
Flossing.
Dapping.
Can you do the floss?
No.
I can... hidden talent.
I have no talents.
Maybe it's so hidden that I don't even know yet.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
We'll see.
Welcome back then. 2 cracking races to begin the F1 Pro Series 2019. We're in China, Shanghai. It's done, it's dusted. Daniel BEREZNAY's brakes are done and dusted. Hopefully they'll be repaired in time, because Tonizza took that race.
2 races on 2 at the first event, at my first experience, it's just unbelievable.
All right then, gentlemen, it's been a very, very exciting show so far. Now we get to that live race. This is why the drivers are in their positions, getting ready for it. A few roster changes, some people coming in, going out. I know for Isaac Price, he is now out, and Tino, the main man, replaces him. I was going to pronounce his surname. No, cut it. No, I'm not. But he's up there. No, the point is, Williams have made changes here. We go to Baku. What do we know from this track? It's a very exciting race, isn't it, Callum?
Yeah, I raced there back earlier this year. It is a very technical circuit in the middle of it, but with a very long straight like in Monza or something like that, where the overtaking is a massive opportunity. So DRS has a big effect, from what I know, and it will be a very interesting race. Well, hopefully we'll see that is the case. Yeah,
it's a word that's often used about Baku. It can be carnage in terms of jostling for positions. You called it wheel bumping earlier on, Matt. We expect to see that, don't we?
Absolutely, yeah. We've seen amazing races in real life Formula One around Baku, and I think it will be exactly the same here. It's going to be a serious slipstream train down towards turn 1 at the end of lap 1. I don't want to see how that's going to end up, but I think some of these guys will have a lot to prove, especially the likes of BEREZNAY, who will really want a really good third race to finish off and then go into the next 3 races in a month's time. So there's going to be a few guys, especially, as you say, with the swaps as well. They're going to want to impress their teams, be like, get me back in next month. Yeah. So there might be a few dive bombs.
Okay, Tino Nalkaranen then.
Smashed it.
Smashed it, thank you. All right then, Matt, let's look at the starting grid for the final race. And FREDERIK RASMUSSEN in first place. Is he going to hold pole position, Matt?
Well, he knows how to win in Baku, so hopefully he'll be able to do it for his sake. But you've got both the Williams guys behind who are eager to score points. They haven't scored any yet in this Pro Series. So you've got Enzo Benito there in 8th position.
Brendan.
Yeah, we're on the same wavelength. Brendan Leigh, 9th place. Can he do what he's done in the last 2 races of quite a measured approach to his races?
And Daniel BEREZNAY, he needs to deliver. No more brake problems, no more collisions. Deliver and get some points.
He needs to score some points.
And when we look down there, 17th, 18th, it's going to be a fantastic race, Matt. Is Rasmussen going to have it?
Yes.
Callum, we go to Baku. You look at those situations. Brendan is a fantastic driver. We know that. We saw it last year. He was pipped at the post by Rasmussen. What does he have to do, and what can you do at Baku? Because it's such a close circuit to get and move up and overtake.
I'd say it's a bit of both. You want to do damage limitation, because like we said, it can be carnage. But obviously it's a good track to overtake and try and get through. So you'll be looking to try and keep clean the first few laps and then work on it with strategy and then the overtakes.
Is there any driver that's surprising you that seems to be majorly off the pace?
I mean, are you trying to tee up Brendan Leigh? Because that's the only one that kind of straightly comes to mind. But to be fair, there's a few old guards, as we would call them, the ones that have been involved in 2017, 2018, that aren't particularly on the pace. The new boys are coming through, and we could see a few surprise winners.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll take that, Matt, and I will be rooting for Brendan in this one. For the final time today, let's join our race commentators, Alex Brundle and Jack Nichols.
Thank you very much, Tom. Why do you have pictures of Patrick Holtzman on your phone that you can just WhatsApp over to...
I've got all of the drivers. It's just they didn't ask me in time because we went live.
Okay, that's normal. So, we are ready for the final race then, Mr. Brundle. Baku.
It's wide, and then it's narrow, and then it's wide again.
Great analysis. Who needs Valsecchi with that kind of insight?
Stay out of the carnage and stay in the slipstream.
Oh, okay. Well, here's a look at this Baku circuit then. A great, exciting street circuit, and you can see the start-finish down there. We've got 2 left-handers, we've got 2 DRS zones, we've got a really long, not straight, but flat-out section from turn 16 there all the way down to turn 1. Pinned.
Absolutely pinned, and that DRS, as Callum alluded to earlier, is so powerful. It's really going to be a towing and strategic race. One of the biggest pit deltas of the year, because that main straight is so fast. It's all to play for.
Okay, so we are about to get going with the third race. A reminder that in the championship, after those 2 races, David Tonitza has 50 points at the top of the championship, and he's very impressively 22 points clear over Jarno Opmeer, who's second in the standings with 28 points. So Tonitza's really taken hold of the championship early on.
That's what happens when you win both the first 2 races. Yeah. But he's got a fight in his hands, hasn't he, with Rasmussen, last year's winner, coming off pole position. And so let's see this year's winner of the first 2 races plays the winner of last year's race as we head down into turn 1.
Good start from Rasmussen, holds the lead. The 2 Williams in there as well, which is good to see. Tino Naukarinen, in his first appearance of the season, is up into second place. Oh, I thought Karaton was getting fed into the wall there by David Tonitsa as they now head on the straight down towards turn 3. Rasmussen leading, Naukarinen second, Tonitsa third, Karaton fourth, Bono Huis in fifth, but that could all change as they send lunges up into the left-hander there at 5, and I think they've all just about managed to escape.
Karaton in that Williams, so happy with their qualifying position. Let's see what he can do as he follows Tonitsa through the castle section for the first, through the street section for the first time. On board then, all the way down into the tight street section of this course. Really a circuit of 2 halves, isn't it? This absolutely iconic section with the chicane by the castle and then down out onto the wide motorway section where we've seen so much action in F1 and in esports series through the years.
So there is Tino Naukarinen, who was pretty impressive last year. I think he was the quickest driver in the draft competition, got picked by Williams, and then had some sort of hit and miss season, but he's up there in second place now, and Alvaro Karaton also with him in 4th place. And Karaton has done the first 2 races, but he was 18th in Sakir and 15th in Shanghai, so all of a sudden he's up there in 4th spot. But Rasmussen is leading the way, Naukarinen second, Tonitsa third, Karaton 4th, 5th for Huis, Tomei, Lee, Holtzman, Bonito and Otmir, the rest of the top 10 as we go on board with Alvaro Karaton, the Spaniard, chasing down David Tonitsa for 3rd place. And already the top 2 have made quite a bit of a breakaway.
And it's those early laps where you have to make that 1 second gap, because as soon as that DRS opens, if you have somebody within 1 second behind you at the activation point, you are in big trouble down into turn 1. And when they get alongside you, you're just going to gravitate backwards, having to race side by side, and the leaders are just going to progress away and away. That differential in strategy playing out again. The leaders trying to make the break early on the soft tyre. Those who didn't have the qualifying that they were looking for, potentially running a little bit longer on the hard tyre. Not notoriously a big tyre wear circuit this, as street circuits don't tend to be, and a lot in terms of time in the driving ability between drivers through those tight city streets.
Well, those friend of F1 Esports, Jolyon Palmer, said you have to be alert on a street circuit. Lap 2 of 13, 1 less lap for this one because the track is slightly longer, as Rasmussen and Naukarinen come out through the left-hander of turn 16 and onto this flat-out backstretch. Still no DRS at the moment. Worth pointing out Daniel BEREZNAY, who had a horrible first 2 races, only qualified 14th for this race, unfortunately, and so for him, and he's made it up to 13th already. Here's BRENDON LEIGH having a go at Cedric Tomei, the German driver, about to be overtaken. Karaton's got past Tonitsa for 3rd place as well, so the Ferrari driver drops the position, and Karaton is up into 3rd, Williams 2nd and 3rd. Leigh can't get past Cedric Tomei down at the first corner, and Patrick Holtzman is coming with him.
It's almost so long you can pass somebody on the DRS and they can pass you back with the slipstream. But critically, it's the width of the circuit, I believe, down into that first corner that gives drivers options right and left, and then the lack of width as you round that corner that often sees drivers caught out, biffing front ends against the wall on the exit. Tonitsa, a winner of the first 2 races, hunts down. He's broken that gap to Huis behind him, and is now not under pressure from behind by 0.01. Needs to try and keep that critical second gap, so he's not under pressure and can think only forwards. Try and move that car into the top 3 as we cross the line with the DRS open this time around.
So Rasmussen leading, 8 tenths ahead of Tino Naukarinen and the Finn. Alvaro Karaton is in 3rd place. What a strong result this would be for Williams, a 2nd and a 3rd, because as far as the team's championship is concerned, after 2 races, they're the only team with 0 points, and suddenly they're up there in 2nd and 3rd position. So this could be a big afternoon for Williams. And worth pointing out again, all these cars are identical. They're not in a 2019 Williams doing unbelievable things. They are in an equal car to everybody else out there. So Rasmussen and Naukarinen come through across the line to start lap 4 of 13. It looks a bit closer for third and fourth than it does for first and second at the moment. Can Tonitza get back past Caraton? We're on board with Tonitza now, coming down into turn 1, but he's not close enough. A little lock up from Caraton. Tonitza being told he's 12.9 seconds ahead of his teammate, who we haven't seen much of over the course of the evening and the first 3 races, but he is still there. Laurito down in 18th position. Tonitza closing in on Caraton. Not close enough coming into 3.
And a critical technique for these guys really seems to be using that extra bit of track and curb on entry. Obviously doesn't unsettle the cars too much on the simulation, so you can get right out there up against the wall and open the corners out. Do that all the way around the lap, and in terms of width, you've created yourself an extra 2 or 3 car lengths of track.
Tino, can you stay one more lap?
Yep.
That will be a pit call, I would expect, to move then on to the soft tyre or the medium tyre to run to the end of the race.
Now, what I don't know, well, is a lot of things, but whether the Red Bull exactly, it's whether the Red Bull guys have someone listening to the broadcast and are then able to hear that radio, or whether they're just sort of in their own little world and didn't hear that sort of piece of information.
They're going to offer you a job, mate, I reckon, because they should be. And certainly F1 teams at large do exactly that. And they're all sitting actually just behind the stage in one room. So if they really wanted to, they could put a guy and listen to each other. I'm not sure that would quite be in the spirit of what we're doing. But here we have, that's Caraton and Tonitza, I believe, as the first to pit off that soft tyre.
Who was that got a 5-second speeding in the pit lane? It flashed up really quickly. Was it Tonitza? No, it wasn't. I thought I saw a little 5-second penalty flash up, but we'll keep an eye on that one. Maybe I invented it. Lap 5 of 13. So Rasmussen and now Karinen doing an extra lap compared to those behind. Bono Huis and Brendan Leigh, as ever, staying out a lap longer than everyone else. They love that strat.
And just as we thought, Caraton and Tonitza descend to the absolute bottom of the... It's going to be a difficult one to follow because they descend to the absolute bottom of the timing screen. That straight past the pits is so fast that the ground you lose on somebody coming in for a pit stop is just huge. You really have to get your out laps and your in laps right at this circuit.
Lap 5 of 13. I guess where would be sort of the shortest time you'll lose, track you're losing time? Somewhere like Silverstone, I suppose? Silverstone
is relatively long in terms of the pit lane, but relatively slow because you do Vale and Club. It's often about how quick the section of track is you cut out, as opposed to how long the pit lane is. But I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, to be honest. Maybe Monaco, I would suggest.
Yeah, good one, good answer. Lap 5 of 13, whether it's true or not. That's a good answer.
We're in Baku now, so
you got me convinced.
Let's watch this.
Oh, Crutch really attacking the curbs there and almost going into the wall on the exit as they come down the hill. He's going to be under big pressure now from Cem Bolak-Bassi, who's started in 11th place as they come out through turn 16. He's now up into 9th, but we have had a couple of pit stoppers. Will we see everyone else pit? Yes, we will. So Rasmussen and now Karinen, bottom left and bottom right respectively, into the pits. Who's going to come out in front of those two? You'd think it would still be the Red Bull that will emerge in front. We'll see. Here comes Tonitza though. Tonitza and Caraton are fighting it out. Is that going to cost them time? Tonitza gets through and into ahead of the Williams. Where are the others? I think they are ahead, aren't they?
Yeah, it was a nice clean move. It's something that will have probably gained him time more than anything, just picking up that slipstream. But Nick Karinen has come out in front of them. You can see him just up ahead of this battle going into turn 2.
And then Rasmussen is quite a way in front of those two as well. He's a good 2 or 3 positions up the road.
Really likes this place, doesn't he? Rasmussen winning the race here last year. And let's see if he can hold on to that spot until the end of the event. 6 laps in. Slightly shorter race this in terms of laps, but not in terms of distance. The lap is just so long here, covering a massive distance as well, because such a proportion of it's flat out all the way through that sweeping final section.
Up through the left-hander, past the castle on their left-hand side, and the wonderful old buildings around Baku. Nice little restaurant on the left-hand side there. Delicious.
You never offered to take me.
I've never taken you to Azerbaijan. Lap 6 of
Maybe you should.
Okay, well, fine. You heard it here first, folks. Me and Brundle, we're off to Baku. Lap 6 of 13. BEREZNAY leading 1.2 seconds ahead of Bolok Bassi, but they are yet to pit. You can see the drivers that have pitted on the left-hand side there. Rasmussen is one of them. Now Karinen is another. He's up behind Lorito, the other Ferrari that's yet to make a pit stop, and he is cruising past as they come down the start-finish straight. And then it's Joni Tormala as we get another couple of pit stops from Bolok Bassi and Kruj.
When you're absolutely side by side like that, it can be the toe of the car so far ahead of you, and who can get in the toe of that car that makes the difference as to who goes ahead when you're absolutely wheel to wheel. Good fight up ahead. Tormala trying to make progress. Who is that just up ahead of him?
I think it's Daniele Haddad, who's driving for the Racing Point Sport Pesa team. We're on lap 7 of 13. They come through the right-hander and down the next little straight.
Look at the pace of Rasmussen halfway up the field of those who haven't even stopped yet.
Yeah.
He's just absolutely off, isn't he, at the front of this field, and a solid gap then back. It's going to play into his hands as well, because Nick Karinen is being caught up in the traffic of those who've yet to pit, and those people, of course, don't need to move out of his way. They're fighting for him for position, so every moment he spends in that traffic that's essentially not in his race but is, because they're in front of him, is going to cost him time in relation to the leader.
So that's Marcel KIEFER we were looking at briefly, as we are on board now with Tino Naukonen, and he's up behind Joni Tormala, who is yet to make a stop, the other Finn in the field, so two Finns going head to head here, and now Karinen has got the slipstream, and he's going to, well, he looks to the inside. I just worry that Tormala wants to pit on this lap, but he manages to get through, and Tormala stays out again, fortunately. Otherwise that could have been a bit of a tricky situation for Joni, as Rasmussen now retakes the lead of the race after everyone's pit stopped, and he is basically over 3 seconds ahead of Tino Naukonen. So really strong performance this from Freddie Rasmussen. Tormala and Larito yet to pit, so that means Alvaro Caraton is still effectively third, but he's only 2 tenths in front of Tonitsa, so Caraton and Tonitsa is the battle really for ultimately the final podium spot as we go on board with Naukonen.
Interesting watching Naukonen actually through the final sector of the lap there, in a section of the track which is marked on the engineer's notebook as easy flat, easy for him to say. He's just super efficient all the way through that section. We've got some team radio.
Good job so far, Freddie. Keep it up.
Good so far, Freddie. Keep it up.
We concur.
Yeah. Do you ever get that radio message?
Once every 4 or 5 seasons or something.
Generally. Lap 8 of 13. Rasmussen still leading. Saltung then and Haddad and Tormala and Larito yet to pit, so they're going a long way on these mediums. They're going to want to be super aggressive, but when they come out on their soft tyres, but they're going to be a long way down the field. Saltung and Haddad started Saltung started okay, didn't he? I'm just trying to see him on my grid. 13th and 15th they started, so not outrageously far down. Here we go with Naukonen, who's about to breeze past the Racing Point to the outside, and the Racing Point may pit this time around as we go flat out all the way down. In fact, Saltung does pit in the Alfa Romeo, and Larito comes in too. So Rasmussen leads now. Everybody has made their pit stop. Now Karinen is second, Caraton is third, there's Tonitsa in fourth, so that's the closest battle on circuit. Caraton ahead of Tonitsa. Actually, Bono Huis and Brendan Leigh have been locked in a fight throughout the whole race too, so we'll keep an eye out on those two. Bolok Bassi sets the fastest lap of the race, but he's down in 15th position. Rasmussen on the left, now Karinen on the right. The top two, but Caraton's the man under pressure in the second Williams.
And although this the same couple of guys are really at the front, Tonitsa, etc., Brendan Leigh making his way through as well, doing a really good job of damage limitation again in this race after a qualifying he wouldn't have necessarily been happy with.
But the ERS deployment and burn some of this energy.
Okay, so he's got a lot of energy left there, Tonitsa. Interesting.
Yeah,
but you were saying?
Yeah, it's certainly one that's mixing the form up. It's certainly one that's mixing the form up rather than Tonitsa just disappearing into the distance. I wonder if that's just the nature of a little bit of a low grip street circuit.
They're on bold mediums. seconds. Their tyres are 4 laps old. The last lap was a 1.
We are on lap 9 of 13. Still on board with Tunisia, taking so much curb, don't they, as they come through the left-hander of 15, down the hill into the next left-hander of 16. Viers has got a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. He's down in 19th place, 10 seconds away from anyone else, so not a good day for the Haas team, unfortunately, with Viers in 19th and Feder in 20th spot. As they come across the line again, can Tunisia close in on Caraton? We're on board with the Ferrari driver, the championship leader, who as it stands would have his championship league cup, but to be honest, not massively, because the drivers in front of him have not scored well. FREDERIK RASMUSSEN would, if he takes the victory, he'd close in on Tunisia, maybe to within sort of 20 points or so.
I really think Tunisia is going to see this as a great event, firstly and foremostly, but also a race to be really sensible. He's now in the lead of the championship and clocking up another good haul of points there as he uses curb again. Definitely down into turn 1 on the apex, almost everywhere. The really good thing about esports is you can turn off your console before your engineer gets a chance to look at your plank, which is very, very helpful for Tunisia in this phase of the race. And let's see if he can safely make this move past the third place driver, Caraton, being a little bit fruity with the curb again on the inside of the chicane.
So the gap would actually come down to 6 points if it finished like this, with Rasmussen would end up on 43. And no, I've done my math wrong, so ignore me. Lap 10 of 13, I'll try that again in a second.
I never ignore you, mate.
That's an absolute shocker. I've done an absolute
You're
shocker.
unignorable, Jack.
Thank you very much. I needed to do 50 plus 12, didn't I? But so that means 62. So yeah, the gap will be, oh my goodness, just under 20 points. Like I said, 19 points if it finishes like this. But Tunisia wants to climb up the order a little more. He's got a 2.5 second gap back to Brendan Leigh, who has passed Bono Huis then. So Brendan Leigh's got past Bono Huis in the McLaren. The Mercedes is up into 5th spot. Here we go again with Tunisia, closing on Caraton. This could be the move actually for Tunisia as they come over the line. Does Caraton defend? No, he holds the racing line. Tunisia to the inside, and he takes the position. So Tunisia up into 3rd place on the final podium spot. So all that maths I just did was pointless as they now come into turn 2. But Caraton will fancy his chances at getting back at it.
Yeah, Caraton knew there was absolutely nothing he could do down into the apex of turn 1 to defend that position, so decided he would have maybe a go back. Looks like that's not worked out for him down into turn 3. House behind Brendan Leigh, who is within DRS range as well. Let's see if he can pull a similar move down as we come down to the start-finish line. This time much more economical with the curb usage. Potentially that's why we're seeing a bigger gap in pace at this circuit than the others. Some drivers just really, really happy to bounce the car over those curbs, found a nice way. Can be the difference at a lot of circuits worldwide, especially in a single-seater, if you're really comfortable with using the curbs to your advantage.
Bono Huis is a very successful racer, winner of the Las Vegas E-Race a few years ago now, after taking victory there ahead of Olli Pakala. And for those of you wondering where Olli Pakala is, he is still here, unfortunately. He's not driving, but he's moved into a sort of managerial role. Fella looks to be out of the race. Now we go on board with Alvaro Caraton. He's so close to the back of Tunisia here. He is sailing past as they come down the back straight, or the start-finish straight, I should say, to the inside. And Caraton now is up into 3rd place. This fight is going to run and run.
This is the moment as a driver you ask yourself, are there an even or odd number of laps to the end to work out if I'm going to end up in a... So all I need to do is be behind him coming out of the last corner on the last lap. And I was about to say it's like catch up on a video game, but it's and here we are. But it's a little bit more complex than that on this simulation, because obviously DRS very much in the same way as we have in modern Formula 1, and a situation very much in a similar vein to the Azerbaijan races in modern Formula 1.
Lap 12 of 13 then, the penultimate lap of the 3rd race of the F1 Esports New Balance Pro Series of 2019. Bahrain done, China done, both won by this man, David Tunisia, in the Ferrari, but now he's just trying to get up into 3rd position and get ahead of Alvaro Caraton. If it finishes like this, his lead at the top of the championship would come down from 22 points to 19, so only a 3-point chip away, which wouldn't be too bad, but he'd like to limit the damage a little more than that as they come down into the left-hander of 15 and plunge down the hill towards the below sea level C, and they then swing into the left-hander and out onto the back straight. And I've forgotten the name of the sea. Is it the Black Sea or the Dead Sea? Which sea is it?
You, my friend, are going to be much better placed to answer that question than me. I can tell you, though, that Tunitsa switched to a higher engine mode, and there's certainly a fuel game to be played through the end of this race. We did hear radio calls earlier on that the fuel was not being overly used. We see Tunitsa back up the side again. It's just so powerful, isn't it? The drag reduction system. All you've got to do is stay within just that second to make sure you get it. But if you do, you know, it's tricky. If you do make a mistake behind a drive, a little bit of downforce loss, especially as the tyres go away, and certainly through that last sequence of corners as the tyres go away, if you can't be flat out, you are going to miss that. You are going to miss that opportunity to make that critical move on the last lap. So what can Tunitsa do then to stop himself now being passed by Karaton before the line on this, the last lap?
Caspian Sea.
Caspian Sea.
It's the Black Sea is Sochi.
See, what I do is I talk long enough for you to Google things.
Yeah, honestly, you talk so long I could have Googled a lot of things. Final lap of the race. Rasmussen leading 3.3 seconds ahead of Tino Naukarinen. That looks fairly steady. Rasmussen taking his second win in Baku in as many years by the looks of things as he's halfway around the final lap. Naukarinen's doing a good job. Tunitsa in third place, but Alvaro Caraton, as Alex says, is pretty much just lining up David Tunitsa for third. It's going to be a drag race towards the line as they come down into the final corner, so all eyes will be on Freddie Rasmussen to take the victory, but who's going to be on the final step of the podium? Will it be third or fourth for David Tunitsa in the Ferrari? Here they come then, the final blast of corners. FREDERIK Rasmussen here comes across the line to win in Baku, to win the third race of the F1 Esports Pro Series season. Great performance from Rasmussen, but who's going to be third with Naukarinen on the podium? It's side by side and it's Caraton. Caraton has given it, but he's just been given a 5-second time penalty for an unserved penalty. So what is that from Caraton? I just wonder, was he the driver who I thought got the 5-second pit penalty for speeding in the pit lane? Potentially. Caraton drops to 6th.
Yeah, and obviously to pit for that penalty would have cost him massive time, so he's decided. Also Bonito taking that 5-second penalty as well, and he's obviously chosen to run to the end of the race and carry that penalty. But, you know, great race, but unfortunate situation for him, losing that position across the line.
Yeah, that'll be incredibly frustrating for Alvaro Caraton. But there is FREDERIK Rasmussen then just doing his hair, because he's going to need it, because he'll be interviewed soon after taking the win in the third race of the F1 Esports Pro Series season of 2019. Second place for Tino Naukarinen, a really good drive from the Williams team. 0 points coming into this race for Williams, but they've ended up with a double point score. And David Tunitsa ends up in third position. A hard fight for him. He's still leading the championship, but by a slightly reduced margin, as Freddie Rasmussen once again emerges as the main title contender to the man leading the championship. So really, really interesting third race in Baku. That's the final race of the weekend, but we're going to have all the reaction to come when we come back in a few moments here on the F1 Esports Series.
I'm trying to focus on driving.
Silverstone.
Silverstone.
Monaco.
Expect Pujon in Spa or Eau Rouge in the Spa.
Probably the S is from Suzuka, but that's not just one corner. But that combination is awesome. YouTube. Netflix.
Instagram.
Twitter.
Inception.
Matrix.
I will say
the Lion King.
The first sporting idol I had was Iker Casillas when he played for Real Madrid.
Sporting idol, London Norris.
Actually.
Yes. Know what other people are thinking. I'm good at PlayStation 4 with the pad on this game.
I have no idea.
Of course.
Welcome back. The third and final race of day one of the 2019 F1 Pro Series. Here it is. We went to Baku and Tino was in second place and Rasmussen was in first on pole. And you know, it was neck and neck. What a race. But that Tonzilla, he does it again, moving up the grid. So listen, let's go ahead to look at the provisional race results right there. As you can see, Frederik Rasmussen in first, Tino in second, getting the first points for Williams, and David Tonitsa doing the business, finishing in third place. He is racking up as many points as he possibly can. And as you head down there, Frederik Rasmussen, fantastic stuff there, the 25 points, but Patrick Crutch as well. But you know what? Frederik Rasmussen and Tino are with Rosanna right now. Let's see how they feel.
I am with our winning driver and our second place driver from the Baku race. Frederik, congratulations. What a relief to get your first win. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. It's nice to get the first win. I knew I had the pace on the first two tracks, and I was not so sure about Baku, but I got it done because of a bit of luck with the traffic. Tino got held up quite a bit, and I was able to pull away.
Congratulations, Tino. Frederik mentioned the traffic. How difficult is it to make that strategy work around a circuit like Baku?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was trying to keep up with Frede, and I got hold in the pits a little bit, and there was like two cars between us, and one of that was his teammate, so obviously he got pretty easily through. But to be honest, when I was behind the cars, I knew they have to pit, and they are not on my pace, and I knew that our team has 0 points from first two races, so I just really wanted to have a podium. So I was taking the car the traffic carefully. So yeah, that was my plan.
Well done to both of you, and good luck for the future races.
Thank you.
Right, our last touchscreen of the evening. We have Danny BEREZNAY, who hasn't had a particularly good evening tonight, but we thought we'd put a little compilation of overtakes that he had for this Baku race. First up is one of the Mercedes drivers who actually made it pretty easy for him. Maybe felt a little bit sorry after the amount of absolute unluckiness that Danny BEREZNAY has had. He goes up the inside of the Toro Rosso as well there as... I kind of would like to see Danny BEREZNAY really put on a charge in our second show of live races, and another one into turn one as well. Now, we're going to quickly cut to Frederik Rasmussen, who knows how to win around Baku. He's won again as he made a few pretty key moves when he pit, and there were a few drivers around him that hadn't pit, and he managed to just pull that gap to Nauka Rinnan, and that was pretty much it. He had a 3-4 second buffer, and it was done. Rasmussen from there really just kind of controlled the pace, had a lot of consistency, didn't bash into any walls, didn't lose any end plates, which is crucial. The downforce on these cars, you need absolutely everything, and there he is, one of the most modest celebrations I've ever seen for a P1, but that I guess is particularly ecstatic for him. Tom, how would you celebrate?
Well, listen, can I just say I would celebrate on the fact that was the best touchscreen of the whole day. Matt Gallagher, ladies and gentlemen, there he is up at the touchscreen. No applause, I can't help with that, Matt, but a man that I would like to give an applause to, he's made it here to the GFinity Arena. It's Pierre Gasly. Let's get you in here, sir.
Thank you, man.
I'm going to go for a cheeky little fist bump there. Pierre, now am I right in thinking that you've come straight from testing to be here tonight?
Yeah, exactly. I was in the simulator all day long, and just arrived.
Yeah, now, and the thing is, Pierre, as Callum has been holding fort, we've been waiting for you, and it's delightful to have you here. The times that they've lapped up, they're very respectable times, aren't they?
Well, yeah, I think I've just managed to watch the last couple of laps, but I must say I was really impressed how clean racing it was. Good couple of moves. Thanks, Mats, to have shown a couple of them. But no, I know these guys are really fast. I do play a bit sometimes, and I know some of their names online. So I know they are really fast.
Yeah, and it's been a fantastic day. Callum, what have you taken away from this? It really has been Tonzilla show, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is my first esports experience, and I'm really impressed. Been an amazing event. But obviously, you know, the Ferrari guys bringing it home, leading the championship. Great start, I think.
Yeah, and definitely, even in that last third race, Pierre, you might have seen it, Tonzilla was just fighting neck and neck. He's got desire, the hunger. We spoke earlier with Callum. You need to be focused, you need to make the sacrifices. That's what makes a champion, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, he already scored a lot of points. I think it's the best start he could have done. I saw really smart racing, also with the way they manage all the energy to make the moves and just to set him up the best way for the last couple of laps. So no, there was really good racing.
Yeah, and FREDERIK Rasmussen has it all to do. He won that. He won Baku last year. Should we have nicknames now? Because Tonzilla has a nickname. Is this the new thing? Have we learned that today?
We'll leave it to you to decide.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's have a look at the standings, where we lay right now with everything of today. What do you take away from it, Callum, when you look at that? It has to be the Tonzilla show, but mainly, what about MARCEL KIEFER sneaking in there in third?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few guys who are holding fort. I think Tonzilla is a little bit ahead, but going into the next rounds, they've just got to be consistent, and maybe some of them will bring it back.
And Pierre, for the guys that didn't do so well today, what can they do? How can they go away and improve on this?
Well, I think they still have a lot of races to go, so the championship will be long. For sure, all the points are important, and still a couple more occasions to do well. So just a big push, and the winner will be decided right at the end. So just keep pushing.
Yeah, I feel like we just had you for a short amount of time, Pierre. Thank you so much for joining us. To Callum, to Eilert as well, to Matt Gallagher, to Jack Nichols, to Alex Brundle, to Rosanna Tennant, to the whole team, and for you guys for watching. Well, that's pretty much about all the time we've got for today. But you don't have long to wait for round 2 of the F1 Pro Series, with the next 3 races coming in to you live on October the 2nd. Can Daniel BEREZNAY and BRENDON LEIGH and the rest fight back, or will it be another day to remember for Tonzilla? We'll see you then. Hello and welcome to round 1 of the F1 Esports New Balance Pro Series 2019.
All 5 lights are on and we're racing in Bahrain. Oh, he's hit it! Round goes Daniel BEREZNAY.
This was my first ever race in the Pro Series. Just an amazing feeling.
Quite a long hold, but we're racing in China. BEREZNAY seems to have a problem with his rig.
2 races on 2 at the first event, just unbelievable.
We are ready for the final race, Baku. Good start from Rasmussen, holds the lead. The 2 Williams in there as well. Crush really attacking the curb. So Tonzilla up into 3rd place in the final podium. Caraton now is up into 3rd place. There is FREDERIK Rasmussen after taking the win.
I'm feeling great. It's nice to get the first win.